Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, and next week, I suppose.
We're going to do this movie twice?
No, well, we'll be doing 2 weeks of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman building up to the release of Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes, so we're doing 2 weeks of build up to Deadpool and Wolverine. This week we're doing a Ryan Reynolds. Next week we'll be doing a Hugh Jackman. They don't have any other movies together except for Wolverine Origins, and we've done that, baby.
We've done that bad boy.
We've done that bad boy so long ago, and it's nice to not have to watch it again. Let me say that.
Well,
thank goodness we already did it.
we're cranking out all the hits over here. So we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about the Hitman's Bodyguard this week, and we're going to be talking about Real Steel next week. We're revving up towards that.
We're moving up towards that. You would be surprised how many Ryan Reynolds movies we have covered on this podcast that we've gotten down to Hitman's Bodyguard.
Many, but not all.
Not all.
Not
We're
all.
Saving a couple.
There's still a couple we're sitting on.
We're sitting on them. You guys just have to wait. Stick around. Stay subscribed. And speaking of stay subscribed, I'm just going to throw a quick shout out and a reminder that my book is coming out in November.
Yay!
Yay! Everybody party. Everybody be so excited for a book because it's my book. My book is called Sex Lives of Superheroes. It is a scientific and comedic look at how superpowers would affect the sex lives of the heroes who have them. It's very funny. It's very scientific. You will learn a surprising amount. And it's very fun. It's available for pre-order now. Wherever you get your ebooks or paperback books, you can find all the links to Sex Lives of Superheroes at fromsuperheroes.com/sexlives. I've compiled all the relevant information.
All in one convenient place.
I'm nothing if not convenient. God damn it.
You've done the research at this point.
I've done so much research. If I can't make a list after I wrote a whole book, that would be unimpressive.
You've cited sources and everything. There's science in there.
The bibliography is quite long.
It's tight.
It really gets up there. It really helped with my word count, let me tell you.
Oh.
It didn't count towards the word
No,
count.
it doesn't count. I don't think that counts. I don't think that
My
counts.
publisher would have been furious.
Furious with you.
You use stuff with really long titles.
And instead, your publisher was quite pleased with you.
Yeah, they're very happy with it.
And now we need you to be pleased. So please pre-order the book. Get on that right now.
I'd really appreciate it. And I actually, if you like me on here, you're going to love jokes that I worked really hard on. As opposed to ones that are just off the cuff.
Take that, this podcast. Speaking of this podcast, let's get into this week's episode. Let's talk about the Hitman's Bodyguard. All right, so we have seen The Hitman's Bodyguard. We had seen it before. We have watched it again.
Nice.
Let's start with the usual, the simple question. Diana, did you like it?
Oh, yeah, I like this movie a lot. I think it's really fun. It's not great, and it's not a love, but man, I really like it. It's really, really shines, and like they're together for a lot of it when Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson are together. The opening is fine, there's nothing wrong with it, but they don't meet up until about like 15 minutes in, and then it's like, yeah, now we are cooking. They're so funny together, they're charming. The action is surprisingly good for a Netflix original. Like, Netflix will give a movie a budget, but like it's not like Warner Brothers or one of the big picture ones, but lots of action. That's really fun, it's really peppy. It's like just violent enough. The whole movie hits the right tone the whole time. Like the movie knows its tone and hits it at all times of like goofy but oddly grounded violence and silliness, but also like there's stakes. I just think it's a great movie. I have a fun time with The Hitman's Bodyguard, and I'm really glad we did it for a second time. Andrew, did you like The Hitman's Bodyguard?
Yeah, I also think it's great. I'm also glad we watched it for a second time. Doing it for the first time.
We'll do it again next week, as we said.
As we said, we're just doing this every week. It's the new podcast now. It's miserable.
It'll be fun for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, you can't watch one movie that long. It starts circling back on you. But for this watch, it's peppy, it's fun, it's got great action. It's just a really good time. And also, like, I agree with you. This is like a really fun kind of like mid-budget action movie where like this is the $30 million action movie that like we all kind of want to see. It feels of a different era and like it feels almost like antiquated in a charming way where I'm like, man, we haven't had enough of these in a while. It's just good.
It is just good. Yeah, not every action movie has to be like an Avengers Endgame level thing. Like this really is like I would say pretty much no CG, just practical stunts and guys with like fake guns and stunt choreography and two very funny actors who are at the peak of what they do comedically, which really bounces off each other but is different and very, very fun. Yeah, this doesn't exist anymore. That's a good point.
It's a type of movie that doesn't exist
early
anymore.
Bad Boys.
It really is. It really feels, and just like, it's been a while since it's been like, hey, Gary Oldman, just do whatever you want, man. And
I'm
like,
less getting Fifth Element vibes.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's been a bit. Let's let Gary Oldman off the chains a little bit more often. And yeah, phenomenal casting. Yeah, like Hayek, Jackson, and Reynolds are all kind of like perfect for this. And just a nice $30 million action movie that we just don't make enough of.
We really don't. Yeah. And like but like it could so easily not be special. And it's not like the most special movie, but they really do a good job of being like, some things are going to happen that you will not expect. Like I really love like Ryan Reynolds doing that long monologue while he's drinking and everything's exploding behind him because he's decided to give up on Samuel L. Jackson. I think that's like very different, very Ryan Reynolds, but like doesn't fit the rest of the movie in a good way of like, oh, this isn't what this has been like so far.
Yeah.
But this is a nice little surprise. I still believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very fun, very comedic, just very charming. And yeah, that was a nice like kind of break in an action scene. They add humor to action scenes in a really charming way.
Yeah, because also just like Ryan Reynolds flying through that windshield.
That's also great.
Oh my God. Yeah, it just breaks up the chase scene all of a sudden. Like it's just all of a sudden it's pure comedy. And it does give you that relief because there is a lot of chase scenes.
There is a lot of chase. It gets more towards the end. I feel like it feels like that in retrospect. This is one thing that I actually really like about this movie and I really admire about it. And it feels a little bit outdated in a positive way in this regard, is that the action, it's very end loaded with action. Like the action scenes get closer and closer together as this movie goes on. It takes a while before you get anything longer than a couple of bullets. And that actually, I feel like every movie now is so insecure in its audience's attention, especially streaming movies, where it's just like they're expecting that the audience is on your phone, and if you are disinterested for 10 seconds, we've lost you. They have no faith that an audience is going to continue watching a movie through even a moment of disinterest. So I think for this movie to be like, hey, here's the introduction, here's Ryan Reynolds' character, he's pretty charming, here's his background, that's a little wacky. Like, it's still, the pacing is nice and it's still peppy and has energy and moves quickly, but it doesn't do what every movie does now, which is start in media res or start with the end action scene and then flash backwards. It's just like, no, we're going to set up characters and then a story, and the story gets more exciting as it goes along because that's what stories do. And it's weird to see this movie to be like, I haven't seen a lot of these for a decade.
I haven't seen a movie that's just kind of confident off the top.
Yeah.
And doesn't need to draw you in, because you're absolutely right. There is every other version of this movie, not every other, but many versions of this movie start with Ryan Reynolds being tortured. And then like freeze frame. You're probably wondering how I got tortured.
Right.
And it's because of a hitman. And then we flash back. So yeah, I agree because, and it kind of feels to me like, I know he's not like the writer or director of this, but that feels very Ryan Reynolds-y of like, no, you have to earn it.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds always trusts his audience, and he trusts that they like know what he's about. And like, this is how like my ads are going to work. And my ads aren't funny for about 30 seconds. And then they really get funny. And like Deadpool's pretty funny right off the top all the time. So that's not a good example. But like non-Deadpool Ryan Reynolds, I feel like, like a Free Guy or something. It's like, no, I trust that people are here to see me do what I do.
Yeah.
And we're not going to have to front load this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that feels very nice. And to just be like, I have the energy that I can keep this going off the top as well. Like I'll keep the pacing strong, and we can wait until, because the ending, like talking about like a lot of chase scenes and action scenes, it really is that second half of the movie where it is just like they're in a safe house, they're in Amsterdam, a chase scene in Amsterdam, a boat chase, an escape from a torture scene, another car chase scene, a foot chase scene. Like there is like it's like, oh, there's 5 minutes between action scenes. Now there's 2 minutes between action scenes. Now there's 30 seconds between action scenes. It just gets more and more frenetic as it goes on, which I think is a really strong choice of just kind of having faith that we're going to be with it.
It is a really strong choice. I also really like, though, because the opening, like the earlier action scenes are spaced further apart and not as big and bombastic. But I like that they're very thoughtful. Like, I really like the one when they're on like the lonely road and like the car with just like 3 guys pulls up. And they're like, and it's not a very long action scene, but it's very like, no, we thought this out and we made it exciting and funny. When the bullets explode and then blow up the second car so they have no car, it's just like such a great like comedic end to this actually like kind of daunting, like how are we going to shoot these guys action scene? Yeah. But then you get into much bigger ones, as you said. Like once we get to Amsterdam, huge chase scenes, a boat, a motorcycle, a torture scene. Yeah.
But I agree, like there's comedy in that one where it's just the 3 guys, as much as it is kind of like there's a quick moment of tension, quick relief, and then a quick hit of comedy. But yeah, the scenes get progressively longer and closer together as it moves forward.
I will say, though, I think, because even if it's not a chase scene, I think like the opening scene, one of the opening scenes where Samuel L. Jackson gets like attacked while he's like being prisoner exchanged. And then there's so many other scenes in cars. I will say with a lot of this movie, I'm like, this movie feels like if the chase scene from Winter Soldier was a whole movie.
Oh, it does kind of have that energy.
It's like just a lot of Samuel L. Jackson in a car being shot at.
Yeah.
And like that's great for him because he's like 70. So I'm totally cool with him mostly just being in a car and being charming and funny.
Giving him car chase scenes, I'm like, that's a great way to be like, you're still an action star and you're still doing it, but we don't need to do quite as much physically demanding stuff with you. And the handful that we do, obviously, like we do, sub in your stunt person. But obviously we want to hide those seams as much as possible. And even things like the final action big set piece starting with Ryan Reynolds getting launched through the windshield.
Jesus,
and being like, so and funny. Now it's so funny. And now he's on foot and Samuel L. Jackson is in the vehicle and being like, we have a car chase and we have a like an action kind of hand-to-hand set piece with Ryan Reynolds. That's a great breakup. It's great. Like comedy, 1-2 action. It works really well as a rhythm, I think.
Yeah, it works really well as a rhythm. And it's also a bold choice, I will say, to hire Samuel L. Jackson, who, as I said, is so enduring and so tough, but is 70, to play a man who will not die. Yeah. To be like, we're going to take this 70-year-old man. We're going to shoot him in the leg. We're going to shoot him in the hand. We're going to have him John Wick off a building, and not a fancy John Wick. The end of the first John Wick, where he really slops.
Sloppy one, yeah.
He really slops down. And then I do start to wonder if this character is actually unkillable. Mm-hmm. Like, he's hurtable, but he's really not dying.
Yeah, he takes a beating. He is like a Homer Simpson in the boxing episode. Where
he might get tired, but he won't die.
He lets his enemies punch themselves out, type of a thing. Yeah. They're getting so exhausted with trying to kill him.
Yeah, and I just think it works. They do an incredible job of hiding the seams of like Samuel L. Jackson can't do most of this.
Yeah, and when he does, it's like that one moment where they leave the safe house together. And it is a stunt person for one like forward flip through a window while shooting 4 people. And it's so quick, it makes him cool. And it is so quick that it's also easy to hide that that is just a CGI seam into a stunt person.
It absolutely is. Man, they're so good at making him look cool.
They're great at making him look cool.
The helicopter explodes and it pans over to him. Very Nick Fury, but also not Nick Fury at all. So cool.
I am going to say that shot, that kind of end of the movie shot of him where, he's on the roof with Gary Oldman as the corrupt president. And he shoots down a helicopter, and the camera shows the helicopter getting shot up, pans as it crashes down behind Samuel L. Jackson to not show like he doesn't turn around to look at the explosion.
Cool guys don't look at explosions.
But the framing of it as well, to be like Oldman, helicopter, zoom in, you see the pilot get shot, pan, follow the helicopter down. Samuel L. Jackson is walking, does not look back as the explosion of the helicopter he just shot down happens behind him. Like, to have... Lots of action heroes will have the explosion behind them they don't look at, but for it to begin in front of them and then to shoot it until it reaches behind you, it was just a really great fluid camera motion. It just looked cool, and like a digital cityscape behind him, so I think it was some green screen composites there, but all of the seams stitched together very nicely and just kind of looked really slick.
It looked really slick, yeah, for like I don't want to say cheap, affordable Netflix movie.
It's certainly affordable.
Mid-budget? I don't know what the nice word...
I would call this a mid-budget.
I don't want it to be insulting, but like for a mid-budget movie, there is some interesting as hell shots in this. Like the long fight scene at the end when Ryan Reynolds is on foot. It's not a oneer, but they'll do like long oneers within the fight. Like when he's fighting the guy in like the hardware store and the restaurant.
Yeah.
They're like the camera's like in there and it's not stopping, and they do the whole fight, the mini fight in one shot. I'm like, oh, this is also another neat thing we didn't do throughout the rest of the movie, and this was really cool.
That was really cool.
And the tension's built, and I'm like, oh, Ryan Reynolds might die. He's not the one testifying at court.
And I thought that like that hand-to-hand fight in that little like kitchenette or whatever, it went on for a while. I thought it was pretty cool. It was done like in the style of a oneer with those like hidden kind of cuts in between, which were quite frequent. I didn't think it was a very cool or stylish oneer.
It wasn't the best oneer ever by far.
But it was, I think, a great practical filmmaking decision because it allowed actual shots of like Ryan Reynolds doing the choreography 3 moves at a time. And I think for a $30 million movie with a pretty quick production turnaround time where it's like, yeah, Ryan Reynolds didn't spend 9 months memorizing the choreography for this. So it's like, well, we can do 3 moves. And then the camera's got to go behind this stunt double. Then we'll have a digital slice. Then, Ryan, we need you to practice the next 3 moves. Then the camera's going to move by a shelf. And then there's going to be a digital stitch. And then Ryan will get you to do the next. It's a really good way to have like an actor and not a stunt person do stunts in a safe and practical manner on a affordable budget with a quick turnaround time. It's just one of these things where I'm like, this looks the best that it can possibly look for the time and money that you have to film this, which I think is like a huge credit to everyone working on this project.
I completely agree. Now, here's where I will say, let's get into some negatives. Here will I say the budget maybe does show itself. And you know this stuff better than me. Am I crazy, or did everyone except Samuel L. Jackson and Ryan Reynolds sound ADR'd?
Yeah,
What was going on with every single other person in this movie?
Yeah, I think there were a few problems with some of the locations where they just
Some of it was inside, though.
Yeah, I don't quite know. They didn't get them wired right. I just don't. But I do agree that some of them had to be redubbed for some reason, and it just didn't quite sync up properly.
Yeah, and it was mostly like everyone without an American accent, because it's just because for a movie set in London or England for the most part, it's weird the 2 leads are both American with no explanation.
Yeah. They're just like, this is it. Don't worry about it.
Whatever. They live in England. Leave them alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone else kind of has an accent of some kind, and also they're ADR'd. Like Elodie Young has almost like no scenes that I think were actually done on set. Or no lines.
Yeah, it doesn't quite sync up with her mouth movement all of the time for some reason. Even though I think she's actually doing quite a good job. I like her here.
I always like her. I mean, I think I've only seen her in Daredevil.
Yeah.
But I think she's very good. She butts heads with Ryan Reynolds very well.
She's a really good kind of partner for him comedically and romantically in this. And I think that she does a good job. And it is kind of a shame that there's like a half a second desync between some of her dialogue and her mouth movement.
Yeah, and a lot of I think a little bit of Gary Oldman's and most of like the other cops. And I was like, oh man, they really gave all the good audio guys to Sam and Ryan? I don't know what happened.
With Oldman, I couldn't notice or care because he's
English.
chewing scenery and he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit.
Your audio doesn't have to sync up if you're chewing.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it works.
Absolutely. He's doing a wild Russian accent that like sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. He learned some Russian for the role, which like kudos, you know more other languages than me. So like I don't mean to disrespect anybody for already being like, you know, way more talented and putting in way more work for anything than I ever have. So awesome. But he is going ham. He is going bananas. And this is some classic action movie fourth build Gary Oldman. This is some Leon the Professional of him in the hallway of like, get me everyone.
Yeah. This was very Fifth Element to me, but Leon the Professional is also very good.
If you get Gary Oldman filming an action movie in Europe, you are about to get some wild fucking choices. I tell you that.
American Gary Oldman is a totally different, very serious man.
Gary Oldman in America showed up to work. He's a goddamn professional, all right? He's a professional. He is an Oscar-nominated actor. He is doing his thing. European Gary Oldman, however,
he's on vacation.
he's having his own day.
European Gary Oldman's here to party.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone was here to party. Like, you know how when you can watch a movie and you're like, everyone's having fun.
Yeah.
Selma Hayek's having a great time.
Absolutely.
You can tell she is like, I love that I got to play a badass at 49 years old who's just swearing and kicking people's asses. Like, she seems absolutely delighted to be in this. Gary Oldman as well. Yeah, I don't feel like he's cut loose in a while. He's been doing like Dark Knights and Harry Potters and it's good for him to just kick back a little.
Let's get that old man back in there.
That old man, he feels like a young man.
Very
young man.
That old gray mare is what she used to be. You know what I mean? Like he's still got it. So yeah, I absolutely adore him in there. I do want to say on the subject of casting, one of the big highlights to kind of go back to a positive for this is Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson are, I think, born to play against one another. They are so perfectly cast in this type of role, in this type of action comedy.
They really are. And this is very fun because I think sometimes these kind of movies can have two people who do kind of the same kind of comedy. And these two do not do the same kind of comedy. Ryan Reynolds is the very sarcastic, very dry kind of humor. And I don't really even know how to describe what Samuel L. Jackson does. Just kind of like charming, but not over the top, but just relaxed. Is he relaxed? I don't know how to describe him, but like they butt heads in such a good way. This is such a fun, like, because the premise is very much just like spy versus spy, but they have to work together. It's been done before.
The odd couple. It's the fastidious planner versus the improvising chaos demon.
We've seen it before. Man from U.N.C.L.E. Like it's happened many times. You got these two who have to work together, but this is a very fun, like, we're both the comedic one. Even though Ryan Reynolds feels like the straight man, they really are both the comedic one.
Well, this is why I think that they are brilliant together. So it is that, as we just mentioned, that classic, it is the odd couple. It is an uptight one and it is kind of a loose one. But both Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson are both, I think, talented comedic and dramatic actors who know how to change the power dynamic of a scene within comedy, which is wild because they both know how to be the mouth and the grump. And they can flip the switch, which they do midway through each scene, which keeps scenes dynamic. So that is like a small thing with the story of an individual scene in any movie or any story where it's like there should be something that alters or that changes throughout. Each scene that they have together, when it starts, one of them's the mouth who's talking too much about how they think they're right, and one of them is the grump who doesn't like that the other one is talking too much about how they're right. And then those roles get switched throughout that scene, throughout that micro story. And because both of them are so talented, they both know how to play each version of that. So they know how to kind of flip the power dynamic of every given scene, which keeps it so dynamic and fun. And they both know how to be funny, and they both know how to like take a step back and let the other one go as well. They let each other cook, but they also know how to take the wheel. And it's just really nice to see, especially when like Ryan Reynolds is kind of the the fast talking, more comedically driven one. It's great that he gets to play the grump to Samuel L. Jackson's kind of fast-talking idiot, which is normally Ryan's role, but they still get to play within those dynamics.
Yeah.
It's just really nice the way they work together.
It is really nice. Yeah, they're both just like natural, and they kind of, they vibe each scene, which could really fall flat. And it also does make them feel like very equally billed. I feel like sometimes these movies can be very much like the straight one is like the one who's going to get the serious arc, and then the silly one is the sidekick. And both of them are the straight man and the silly one. Like, even though Samuel L. Jackson is more relaxed, he's like, I'm reckless and I don't have a plan. And Ryan Reynolds does have a plan. He's still very, like, cool. He's still a super badass about it.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, it's not like I'm the uptight one and I'm not cool. It's like, no, he's uptight and he's fucking badass as hell.
Yeah.
And he's too loose and it's really cool, but also he's gotten shot like 8 times since I met him.
And both of their things work. There's one thing that I would say is kind of against the grain for this archetype of a story is that neither one learn from one another in any
really
way.
Don't.
Which is kind of cool. Like, at no point is it like, well, Samuel L. Jackson learns to plan and learns how planning can be cool, and Ryan Reynolds learns how to improvise a little bit and fly. No, they're both just like, we're the same person at the end, and it doesn't feel flat, oddly enough.
No, they're the same person at the end who just respects each other more.
Yeah.
And didn't change for them.
They're like, your way? It does work for you.
For you.
But I do not see the value in it for me.
No, I'm a planner.
But I'm glad
Ryan
it works
Reynolds.
for you.
Yeah, I mean, they're both also like so late in their careers. Like, you're expecting Samuel L. Jackson to start planning at 70. He's done. He's made it. He's a successful hitman. Ryan Reynolds is in his 40s. Planning works just fine.
Yeah.
He couldn't predict that Samuel L. Jackson would get a shot from 300 meters away that he wasn't even planning on doing. But plans, for the most part, are good to have when you're protecting someone from death.
And also, Ryan Reynolds is running a business. Like, in the opening scene, when he's at the height of his career, he's got like a couple dozen people under his employ as part of his team and company. And it's like, yeah, you need to know how to use Excel. Like, you actually can't wild card your way into having a dozen employees.
You got to schedule those guys.
Yeah, what's their insurance plan? Like, you had to pick out an insurance package for these people. So yeah, of course, you do have to be the planner.
Yeah, but yeah, it is, because even these movies usually do at least make it like, even if they don't change forever, they're like, well, what you didn't expect is that I taught Samuel L. Jackson how to plan, and then he'll do like one plan. But he won't be planning forever. But like they'll recognize it in each other. And not in this one.
No.
In this one, they're just like, no, we are who we are. We respect each other. It works for us.
And that's it.
And I actually really like that sense of self. It actually makes them feel like more badasses. Like, we don't have to change.
Yeah.
We maybe have to. Ryan Reynolds changes emotionally for Elodie Young.
Relationship-wise.
Samuel L. Jackson also doesn't change relationship-wise. Like, I fucking love my wife at the beginning of this movie, and I love the shit out of her at the end.
And I'm good.
And he respects it.
And that's it. And he has that great ending with him and Gary Oldman on the roof. And Gary Oldman gives the villain speech of like, you think this will forgive your sins, and
you're no better than me.
You're no better than me. And he's like, and Samuel L. Jackson just going, I don't give a fuck, and kicking him off of a roof. I really love that. A big villain speech followed by, I don't give a fuck, and then just killing him. Awesome.
It is awesome. I feel like I have complained in recent years that like too many movies will have a serious scene and then like undercut it with comedy like too often. But it feels right here that they do every single dramatic scene with a comedy cut at the end. This movie's, that's where it should be.
It is where it should be. It kind of feels like the correct version of what happened in the Bad Boys movies, which we recently covered on the podcast, where like at the end of Bad Boys 1, when it's like yelling at Will Smith to be like, you don't kill, man. That's not what we do. Even though he's the bad guy and you've got a gun on him, you can't just kill him because you're mad at him. It's like, there's a wake of bodies behind you. This is, in fact, who you are. While the heroes are yelling, this isn't who you are at each other. But this movie's just like, no. this is who you are. All of our actions throughout this film have proven this in this exact fact of who you are.
I've gotten a really good vibe for who this man
for
is.
who this person is. Yeah.
I will say this movie also does a thing, and it's such a small thing, but I've never seen a movie do this because there's lots of movies where like a criminal's trying to get a criminal to court to testify to someone who's flipped, and you have to protect them. This happens in quite a few movies. This might be the first movie where like the person who has to testify wants to testify more than the person protecting him.
Oh, fun.
Like Samuel L. Jackson at no point is trying to like run away and not testify. He's like, I have to get my wife out of jail. I need to testify. And every other movie is like, you know, the person who's testifying is like, no, this isn't worth it. They're going to kill me. Or they try to run away or try to escape. And they have to be like talked into testifying and doing the right thing. And I really like that this movie kind of gives you this relaxing, like, he's not trying to escape. Mm-hmm. He is trying to get to court as hard as he can. Yeah, and no other movie has done this.
He tries to escape once to like drop off some flowers to go and then go back and do the thing.
Yeah, just because he was like, I'm going to go to jail after this. This is my like last hurrah. So not even really an escape attempt. So it was just like really relaxing and nice. I just liked that as a change from like the usual trope of what this kind of film is.
Yeah, and it goes to show that like one of the things that this movie does that we always enjoy is competency porn, where everyone is quite competent throughout the entire thing, and competent and states their intentions. Like this movie even starts with Samuel L. Jackson's character saying like when they provide him like the escort of security, and he's like, you don't need anyone. Just give me a gun, let me walk out, and I'll get there on my own. And that is the truth. And he is good at that and possibly could have done that. And that's cool.
That is cool. And what's so hard about competency porn, in a movie like this especially, is that this is a spy versus spy. And so both of them have to seem wildly competent, even though they're like at each other's throat. This is very much like The Rock can't lose a fight, but neither can Jason Statham. You both have to somehow come out on top in every scenario, not because of the actors' egos, but because that's kind of just what the movie says has to happen.
Yeah, that's what the writing demands, not what the actors demand.
Yes, the writing demands that you are both the best at what you do, but you're working together, but you're also butting heads. So it is very hard to like take a step back and be like, are they both still really cool? Do you still think both of them can accomplish what they want?
Yeah.
But the movie never makes me question it. I'm like, they're cool in different ways.
Yeah.
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 It's smart.
That is smart.
Smart and cool.
That's smart writing. Yeah, they're both just cool in different ways, and they're competent at different things. And yeah, they never quite like lose, but just there is that thing that I always enjoy, and I'm a real sucker for it in action movies, and I always bring it up, but I'm just like, just being tired and beat up is a thing that I like, where it's just like, God damn it. That type of God damn it energy is a thing I always find relatable and charming. And this movie has that in spades, which I'm super into.
Yeah, it's not quite this might as well happen. It's very much like, I wish this didn't happen. I'm tired.
Yeah, kind of that.
On the topic of being beat up, though, I do have to go to Trope Corner for a second.
Lay it on me.
There's a trope I hate. This movie does it. And maybe people in real life do it. I don't know a lot about torture. I don't know about how people torture each other. I am so...
Good.
Right? Good. You know, thank you. That's the right attitude.
Yeah, good.
That's the right attitude. So listeners, if somehow you know, hit me up about what I'm about to talk about.
It would be fucked if at this point on the podcast you were like, if there's one thing I know really well, it is torture. I know it inside and out. It is my one skill. It's the thing I pride myself in, and I know every detail.
I am known for my lack of mercy and my ability to get information out of a man.
Yeah. I don't notice music, and I know how to waterboard. Those are the two things about Diana.
Nobody question it. But no, my Trope Corner thing, and this always bothers me, I'm so annoyed when someone's being tortured for information, and like all of the torture is like head stuff. It's like a lot of punches. This is the worst one I've ever seen, where they put a wet towel on his head and then electrocute his head. I'm like, the information's in the head.
That's where information go.
And the mouth is in the head? And if you want the information from the head to come out of the mouth, the jaw can't be broken, the brain needs to work, there can't be a concussion. Like, why is no one pulling out fingernails anymore? Why is it always head stuff? It infuriates me.
Yeah. Yep.
It's such a weird thing to be mad about, but like as a like very like put together person, I'm like, this isn't how I would torture.
Yeah.
You're not going for the head.
It is. There's that weird moment from The Dark Knight when it is Joker has been arrested and then Batman is like in the interrogation room and punches him in the head. And Joker goes, never start with the head.
Joker's right.
And at that point, Batman crushes his hand and the Joker doesn't react. And Joker's like, because when you're dazed, you don't feel the other stuff. And it's like, yeah, never start with the head.
Oh, man, I don't want to agree with the Joker.
I mean,
but he's a man who's been interrogated.
He is the expert in that scenario.
Mm-hmm. And probably done a few interrogations.
Here's what bothered me about that interrogation,
Fuck,
if I'm going to go
up.
with you, is the fact that why?
They know where he's going.
Yeah.
It's the trial.
Yeah. That's the question they ask him is, where did he go? And it's like, in the boat. Down the canal, which is a straight line. He is taking the boat that you last saw him in the canal, which is a narrow channel.
Pretty narrow.
Towards the one place he's scheduled to be today.
If you check Samuel Jackson's calendar, he's got a big circle around testify at The Hague.
That's it.
Maybe check The Hague.
That's it. And check water channels that lead to The Hague. Like, those are the two. What more information could he supply?
It's one of the only times I've seen an interrogation where the good guy who's being interrogated genuinely doesn't know.
Yeah.
Normally it's like, I gotta protect my friend, or even like Samuel, even if he's not his friend, I gotta protect him. Like, Ryan Reynolds is like, I swear to God, I don't know. And it's like, he does it.
He does, like that.
He could say The Hague, which
he
you
could
all
repeat
know.
the information that they all already know. But yeah, there's nothing additional that these people that he has to offer in this interrogation.
It's almost like they're just assholes.
It's almost like they're assholes and idiots.
Just looking for any reason to torture. You know what, though? Actually, genuinely, them not needing the information / like there's no way he knows makes me feel a little bit better about the head stuff. When it's
Because
like,
now they're not idiots, they're just cruel.
they just like electrocuting people in the head. They probably know he doesn't know.
Yeah.
They saw the boat leave.
Yeah. They're just doing whatever they feel like doing that day.
That dude is hired to torture.
And that dude clearly is into it as well. He dressed up a bunch of fun mannequins and BDSM stuff that day. That guy has he is doing a cartoon theme in his world.
And that's crazy to me because they're not in this country's house of operations.
Right.
They're all from Belarus, and we're in the Netherlands right now. So
well, this might be their local guy. You don't know.
You think they got a guy everywhere?
They might have a local guy.
You think they got a torture guy in every country?
They might have a local guy.
Because if they don't, this man brought the mannequins and set them all up real quick.
And you know at that point, all of the military have got to be like, we're not dedicating another truck to this dude's mannequins. I am sorry, but we are doing an international stealth operation that is highly illegal. And I do not want the gas mask covered in knives mannequin in our SUV.
Yeah.
We can't do it.
He basically loaded up a sex shop display.
Yeah, but then added some knives to it.
Added some knives
to it.
It's a little dangerous.
Yeah, so that's kind of nonsense. But yes, I agree. Never start with the head.
Never start with the head.
Never start with the head.
Finish with the head. I mean, once you get the information, maybe go to town. But the head is wildly vital.
Stop doing head stuff.
So I'm just it's like cutting out his tongue.
Yeah. What are we doing here?
You could punch him in the face. He could bite his tongue, and then you're fucked.
Then you're fucked. Just don't do that. Just don't do. Also, the whole system doesn't work. But don't do it.
Don't torture no matter
what. Don't do
what.
it at all, and especially don't do it like this.
These are just some helpful tips. My master class on torture.
There we go. Diana's Trope Corner. Trope Corner.
Okay, new theme songs for Trope Corner. Yep. You know what? It deserves one. Trope Corner's been around for a minute.
It does, and I don't have the musical ability to give it what it deserves.
It's not like I do.
Yeah,
I've never noticed a song in my life. Although the music in this movie slaps.
Oh, okay. I don't think I noticed it, really.
Oh, it's just they'll do a lot of action sequences with just a song playing, like seeing Selma Hayek beating guys up in the bar.
Oh, okay, a record drop type of a moment where an actual pop song is played.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the karaoke that's the jukebox that's playing while Ryan Reynolds is doing that big monologue on the street.
Yeah,
they got a lot of in-house stuff playing, and it was a banger. Oh, Black Betty, Bang to Bang. We both started slapping our knees. That was
kind of fun, yeah.
It was a good time.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, they did have some fun record drops, yeah.
And also, I laughed really hard when Samuel L. Jackson was singing along with the nuns.
Oh yeah, that's fun. That's fun and charming.
That was just, he really sold me on he was having a great time.
He was having the best time, and Ryan Reynolds was having the worst time. They just play off of each other so nicely.
They play off each other really well. Here's a genuine question. Do you think trials work like this?
No.
This was insane.
No.
Like I can suspend my disbelief for that Samuel L. Jackson can get shot 8 times and be fine.
Okay.
But the idea
But the trial is where you're going to have to draw the line.
So this trial has been going on for months. Like they're like, it's been months.
You get 5 o'clock tomorrow.
5 o'clock tomorrow, and he shows up with 3 seconds left, and they're like, well,
I'll allow it.
He made it. I'm like, no, you're done for the day. It's 5 o'clock. It should be like tomorrow at 8 a.m.
I do think, I do think that whatever a judge's discretion is in that moment is it, but how international trial judges work, I do not know enough, but I'm going to say not this, not like this. I'm going to say all of it is pretty fast and loose.
I mean, definitely the idea that's been going on for months is real. That's how long
I believe that. I believe that.
Take. Yeah. But yeah, the idea that you can walk in with 3 seconds left and be like, check a website, there's some photos, they're definitely real. And like, they probably are, but they haven't been fact checked, they haven't been proofed.
To be fair, no verdict came down. The place got exploded.
You know what?
They were shown and people reacted, but no verdict came down.
Fuck.
In fact, actually, the guy then admitted his guilt.
He did admit his guilt.
So that's a whole different thing.
To escape.
Yeah. He refused to acknowledge the legitimacy of the court, which is a whole different thing.
That's a whole different thing. You're right about there was no verdict.
No verdict came down.
There was a clear leaning of what was maybe going to happen.
Oh, it was about to get bad. It was about to get bad, yes. It was going to be bad.
It's going to be bad.
It was going to be quite bad.
Yeah, I don't think that's how court works.
No, I don't think that's how any of this works. I don't think that's not how interrogation, that's not how courts, that's not how water channels, any of it.
Yeah, canals. That water channel did not go enough places.
Yeah.
The fact that they couldn't find him is insane. Poor Ryan. Yes, if I was Ryan Reynolds, I'd be furious that I got tortured for that.
Yeah. To be like, straight line, guys. Absolute straight line.
He actually should have had way funnier lines during that, now that I think about it. Like, you saw him.
Yeah.
He went straight.
Yeah. I think that, like, it is weird because, like, I think they did a really good job of probably punching up the comedic writing of the script of this, where it is actually hard to tell where Ryan Reynolds improvised. And it's normally quite easy to tell. And I think maybe it's because Samuel L. Jackson could keep up with him also.
Ooh.
But normally when you watch when I watch Ryan Reynolds, I'm like, oh, that wasn't in the script. And I actually can't quite tell here. It stays pretty tonally consistent, and Samuel L. Jackson keeps up with him. So either everyone improvised on his level, and it's actually kind of hard to tell, or the script did a really good job of capturing his comedic voice and lending it to him. I would say the only line that felt fully improvised by Ryan Reynolds was when he was like, put all of these air fresheners in the car, send it out front, and then we'll burn it. And that's the only one where I'm like, there's no way that doesn't happen. So there's no way that was in the script. And it was also after the exposition phone call had occurred. So I'm like, that was a tag on. Other than that, I can't tell what he improvised.
I was going to say the exact same line was a Ryan Reynolds improv. I think in this movie, probably the only like obvious ones are like when it's the very last line of a scene. It's like Samuel Jackson is talking about meeting Selma Hayek. And then Ryan Reynolds just ends it with, she sounds like she'll be a great mother. And it's like, that's a very Ryan Reynolds-esque line. And I'm going to say probably more of this is improv than you think if the IMDb trivia is true, because this was a dramatic film.
Right.
And they did rewrites for 2 weeks to make it comedic.
And like good comedic writers, a great punch-up room can do that.
I mean, if you don't have to change the plot, it actually is like pretty like, these just become jokes.
Yeah.
It's not like the hardest thing in the world. Restructuring a plot is very hard.
Yes, yeah.
Rewriting dialogue within the same plot is not as hard, but I would still think that would leave a lot of improv room for Ryan.
I think it would definitely leave improv room. I think that there are some strengths there of the, like, you just have to do comedic punch-up and don't have to worry about script beats. The fact that close to production means that you know who's been cast, so you can actually write for the voice of the actor versus writing early comedic scripts when you don't know who's going to be cast. cast, so then you can kind of get an inconsistent voice of the character comedically.
Yeah, you know it's Samuel Jackson, just like 18
Motherfuckers in there. Yeah.
we
And then they
go.
have a Ryan Reynolds line where he's like, the man's ruined the term motherfucker for me. And it's like, that could be improv, or that easily could be just a couple comedic writers doing punch up on the scripts. It's hard to tell, but yeah, I'd say that like if it's to believe that it was originally a dramatic script, it could be punch up writers doing this good a job, or it could just be really good and seamless improv with a lot of great actors.
It could be both.
Could be both.
It could be a good combination of both.
Yeah. Well, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask that final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, leave a rating or review for a few of your favorite podcasts. It helps the podcasts that you love like find new listeners and grow and expand. It's very important to us, and it's a free way to support. And if you do want to support monetarily, however, there are some cool ways to do it over on Patreon.
Patreon is a subscription service where you can support creators you love, hopefully us, and you get cool bonuses for doing so. At the $1 level, you get our comic text from superheroes a day or two early, depending on when I Photoshop it. At the $3 level, you get this podcast early and ad-free, which is really fun. When we do new releases, you get them early. When we do anything, you get it ad-free, and that's always fun for everybody involved. Just the jokes.
Boom.
Boom. Jokes. And at the $10 level, you will get access to an extra episode of Talk from Superheroes every single month, and the backlog of all the old babies.
All of the old ones, too. You get them all. This month, we did Twister as our Patreon exclusive in preparation for the film Twisters. We went for the singular before we go see the plural. That is available right now at the $10 hero level over on our Patreon page. And when you sign up at any given level, you can always cancel or change your level the next month. So if your budget does change, do not stress, do not worry. We appreciate any support that you can give. And as well, if you're looking for a deal, you can also sign up for a year, in which case you get 1 month free. So check out all of the options. We appreciate any support, and we love giving you some cool bonuses for doing it. So check out patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question. What would you change about this movie? If you could change anything, Diana, what would you change?
My change is very minimal. I think it's a very, very good movie. I don't think there's a lot you need to change. My change is actually going to be, so Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson don't actually meet for about 15 or 20 minutes in. Like, there's a lot of action and a lot of good stuff happens, but this movie really picks up when they meet. I'd like them to meet a little earlier, but on top of that, I would actually like... It seems very sudden to introduce that they are actually rivals and have tried to kill each other 28 times. It kind of doesn't come into play very much. So I'm going to say right off the bat, Ryan Reynolds knows Samuel Jackson shot his client. He does not think Elodie Young betrayed him. Their relationship just broke apart because he got depressed when he lost his job and he was an asshole about it. I don't need this whole, I think you, like, none of us thought she betrayed him. No one believes that. It's weird that
she was the corrupt cop.
It's weird that he genuinely believed that, and I would also be so mad if I was her that he believed that. Like, I think that would not be redeemable in a relationship. I think I would just be like so mad about that for all time. So I think he should like know when it happens that it was Samuel Jackson. He's too far away from him to catch him. Like, and it's like, again. And then he opens the door at Samuel Jackson, and we as the audience are like, oh yeah, they hate each other. We've already been introduced to this. They've already kind of had just like the briefest back and forth. We've seen this history. And it kind of seeds it in better than like, they really only just have like one flashback of Ryan Reynolds getting like nicked in the arm during an assassination attempt. And I'm like, there were 27 of these though? Like, I want all of them. I need way more backstory than this. Like, what have you guys faced against each other? So yeah, just a little bit like I would cut that it's a secret that it was Samuel Jackson and just reveal it from the beginning, and they're mad the whole time at each other for this reason, because it adds a little bit more like butting heads. That's my tiny change for the Hitman's Bodyguard. Andrew, what would you change?
Interesting. I like that. I think I can get on board with that. I think that I also had a change kind of based around the like, I thought my girlfriend betrayed me type of a thing, where her boss in this movie, like her higher up at Interpol, is the one who is like feeding information to the bad guys and betraying them all. I wouldn't mind if, like, yes, Samuel L. Jackson is the one who did that initial assassination and had got information from that Interpol guy. And maybe he's the one who's like, your boss is corrupt, right?
Oh, I love that.
And I think that is a way more fun thing for him to be like, talking to Elodie Young, to be like, we've got to get away from this group that he sent you. Like, this is bad. Give me a gun and send me on my own. This is bad. To be like, your boss is corrupt as well. So I'd like that, because at the end, like, Elodie Young's character just kind of only like captures her boss because she sees him leave a room and he's got a cut on his hand, and she's like, what's that? And then he just starts choking her, and there's no real evidence or reason no one figures out that he was a bad guy. She just asks him about a cut on his hand and he goes absolutely nuts. So I'd prefer it if Samuel L. Jackson got some kind of job-based information from him and was like, hey, your boss is corrupt. You need to get someone who's not on your team. And that's why she has to call her ex-boyfriend.
I really like that. I think that's a great change, because it does, like, I think there's already a pretty good reason to call Ryan Reynolds, but that's a better reason. But then it would also give her something to do the rest of the movie, which she could go back and, like, try to get evidence that it's her boss.
Yeah, or feed him incorrect information.
She would have much more to do in those scenes where she's just kind of like, where's Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah. Yep. It allows her to then be, like, actively engaged in it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah, she could be solving mysteries.
Yeah.
Collecting evidence.
Well, yeah, so that's my change.
I love this.
That's my change.
I think
It's
that's a great
that
change.
Samuel L. Jackson should know that corrupt Interpol guy.
I think it's great. Excellent. We've done it.
We've done it.
Woo!
Woo! We've done it. We've had fun doing it. And next week, continuing our build up to Deadpool and Wolverine. Next week, we're going to be talking about Real Steel.
This is a movie we have not seen.
We've
we have
never
no
seen
idea.
this bad boy.
We have no idea what to expect.
The Rock'em Sock'em Robots movie
Will it be real?
with Hugh Jackman.
Will it be steel? We'll find out.
We're gonna figure this all out next week on the podcast. We'll solve this Da Vinci Code. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, most social media. I'm at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me on Instagram at Pics of Diana, on Tumblr at Words of Diana, and you can find my book, Sex Lives of Superheroes, at fromsuperheroes.com/sexlives. And it's funny. You should buy it.
It's funny and you should buy it. You should pre-order it right now. And you can find both of us most places at From Superheroes. And you can find the pre-order link for that book as well as everything else we create over at our website, fromsuperheroes.com. And we'll talk to you all next week.
Bye.